Welcome back to Finding Music. Yes, we're finding music again. You might have enjoyed 394 though, losing music. That's just rare. We do an episode like that. Good change pace. Huh? But here for 395, we got two very special guests. They're billed as Word Troubadours. Got Ellyn Maybe and PJ Swift. So I'm going to turn it over to them so they can share their stuff with you. Okay.
Thank you so much. So I think we'll read a poem each from our book, and then we'll just talk. And any questions you guys have is absolutely fine too. So the first poem is Eternal Eponine. If you've seen Les Mis, you know what I mean. If you've been to high school, you also know. Life is a musical on the very best days. Life is a musical on the very worst days. Musicals walk our emotions on the slippery emotional slope of childhood. Weirdness, defiance, acceptance, and the wisdom to know you are the difference. Life is a theatrical terrain, and we break the fourth wall, carrying a curtain and a ghost light. Breakfast is full on pancake makeup. Lunch is props from the apple orchard. My dinner is with Andre. I'm Eternal Eponine, the most reliable narrator I've ever seen.
You want response that immediately?
Oh, no. I mean,
You were a big pause there. I thought she's waiting for something.
Oh, no.
No. All right, we'll change the name of a group for this episode to Find Poetry.
Oh.
Yeah. That's what today is. We're such variety today. Well, if you don't want to say anything, then do you want to take turns or how do you want to do this?
Well, I mean, do you want to read one? Do you want to read the one, PJ, and then we can just see what flows from that and see.
Okay. Okay. This piece is called That Little Song. Everyone knew that song. Nobody considered it their favorite, but they kind of liked it and accepted it. A sweet, silly, harmless little tune. It stayed around for a while and made its comeback decades later. It survived because all those little moments that people shared and remembered, all that variety of emotion latched onto that song. That song was an emotional bank. It stored what otherwise would have disappeared forever, the emotional substance of so many lives. That song was like currency, not particularly distinguishable or valuable by itself, but it was a denomination of worth. And so that song was played and sung and remembered, gaining value over the years and far into the future, serving as a testament that we were here.
Wow.
Oh,
Talking about music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the not so great music, right? Like we were talking about. But about Bowie, my only disappointment in Bowie is that he died.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because there was still a lot of creativity that could have come from that
Yeah.
person.
After he left Capitol, he got back into his experimental groove and creative groove again.
Yeah.
Those last two Capitol albums that you pointed out were he I think in an interview he said they were pretty much rush jobs.
Yeah.
Let me say this, I've heard for a long time and personally felt too that writing poetry about music is one of the greatest challenges in poetry.
Oh.
When you think about it, do you have any comment on that?
Well, I at Spencer's reading last week, I read a poem about music. I have 3 short pieces about music.
So how did you feel about that? Are they successful? Did you
I
capture
thought
the
they
feeling of the
worked.
music?
I had a musician come up to me and tell me he liked it's called music 1, 2, and 3, and he said, "Oh, I like the third one a lot, the way it ended."
And
I
PJ,
have trouble with it. I've
no,
often
sorry.
tried to write poems to my favorite artists and I just get nowhere.
Mm.
Yeah, it's hard to capture that spirit in a poem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think PJ got somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I was curious
mean,
how
definitely.
it went for you, PJ.
Yeah, well, like in a similar way, because I was just talking to a friend of mine who made a documentary about a painter,
Mhm.
and I was thinking it's kind of really difficult to make documentaries or films about other artists, because how do you capture that, what they're doing
Yeah.
in something else? But
It's a
there's,
similar conundrum. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's just like films about recording artists and the new Amy Winehouse film. It's a good film, but it doesn't get into how she recorded the album that made her big. Back is
Well,
Black.
there is one thing
Back.
that really comes to mind, and that is Ellen Maybe. In her poem, she's always name dropping music,
mm,
Hmm.
and it just seems to work.
Yeah.
How does Ellen do that? If Ellen was here, we could ask her. Oh, there she is. How do you do that, Ellen?
I've just always been inspired by so many of the art forms, and it just sort of comes naturally. It just seems
Oh,
to just happen and stuff. Because I'm very inspired by the other art forms, so
it
yeah.
adds to the mood of your
mm.
poem somehow. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Yeah.
Mhm. That's great. I'm grateful for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think Ellen has a very natural, and I forget the right word for it, synesthesia, where it's the connection of different
Oh, yeah.
feelings,
The census.
the senses.
Yeah.
Like one flows into another, so it doesn't really matter
Yeah.
what it is, because it's all kind of the same. At least like
She
Ellen
mixes
kind
it
of
up so
expresses
well,
that.
huh? Yeah. There's- We should hear another one. Ellen,
Yeah.
you got another one?
Oh, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Well, okay, let me um okay. This one's called Somewhere in the Sky. What if every moment you feel something happening, someone scattering daisies and someone throwing ash? What if you feel the bones of history and the ache of the land? What if you wake up in your head as a map in a million different languages? What if you are able to eat musical notes for breakfast and symphonies for snacks? What if documentaries are written in your eyelids like rain? What if you listen to everything written in your I poem. What if you listen to everything written with the crescendo of breath? What if everything blended technicolor wonder, but only for an hour? Would you wake up early or stay up all night in order to find it? What if your sky shimmered with glitter? What if your hemisphere drizzled with doom? A thesaurus of moments, human in nature. Would you live in the clouds or relish Earth's hue? Perhaps life is a multiple choice question, my friend. The answer's in a circle dance with no beginning or end.
Woo!
Do you know
Joni.
what do you know when I wrote this poem? This is my
Mm.
poem. It's amazing to think, but I wrote that poem right after January 6th. That was
Oh,
Mm.
that was what I wrote right
Mm.
after January 6th.
wow.
Mm.
Well, we got to be fair to PJ. You need to hear another one, sir.
Mm.
Yeah, the music is
Okay,
flowing through words.
this is a little bit musical, this one. Uh, it's called Poetry House. Uh, People started to flow into the modest, nondescript house near the corner of the street. Quickly, the ground floor was full of revelers who began to recite lines of verse one by one. As they each took turns reciting their lines, their recitation became unified. Altogether, those who had gathered, young and old alike, from different walks of life, were chanting as one. Outside, the cramped house began to pulse, breathing with the rhythmic lines of poetry that the revelers all lived and shared. The windows steamed, and wisps rose from the chimney. The color of the house lightly fluctuated from gray to soft pastels. And the poem finished. The revelers held a solemn breath, and then each took their leave. The tiny house was again empty, nestled in peaceful anonymity near the corner of the street.
All right.
You know, Oh, I was gonna say that when I first started to hear very many of PJ's poems, I started to think that this would be a beautiful project, you know, that the work, even though quite different, was quite compatible too. Do you know, that's my feeling of it, you know, and it seems to be so, you know, but it just
Yeah.
flowed naturally from piece to piece, curating it and all that. So I'm grateful for it. It's wonderful that
Yeah,
that.
PJ's got his own style, and I know that. I reviewed your release. Is that what can we call it that? A
Mm.
release?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
which we'll talk about in just a moment. Yeah, so I remember I just this format right now, what we're doing right now, and putting the poet on speaker view, I loved it. I hope everybody else loved it too, because it just really helped you focus and everything. It wasn't just a box amongst the other boxes.
Mm.
It just seemed like the right thing to do. It really came across. So you guys did a great job. So I guess all that's left to do now, because we want to leave them wanting more, is how can our viewers get a copy of Word Troubadours?
Mm, well, they can email me, so then they could either send PayPal or whatever like that, but they could just email. Should I say my email, or I don't know, or they could,
If you're willing to publicly divulge it, I think you should.
oh, okay,
Is it
it's,
okay?
yeah, I think it's okay.
Yeah.
It's Ellyn with Ellyn, maybe at AOL.com. Very
Well,
old
that's
school.
that's an easy one.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, and yeah, that's,
Yeah,
yeah, and
I highly
online,
recommend getting this, people. They wouldn't
yeah.
be on here if I didn't feel
Mm.
that way, okay? This is a great little
Mm.
book, and these are two great poets. So, and the music is just a bonus. Yeah. So I want to thank you both for being here today, and we're gonna sign off of Fine Poetry and see what happens in the next episode.
Mm.
All
Thank you.
right. Thank you
Mm.
both.
Thank you very much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.